With that, let's bring in Jennifer Jones Austin. She's the CEO and executive director of FPWA, which is New York's leading anti-poverty nonprofit. She's also the chair of the New York City Racial Justice Commission. Ms. Jones Austin, appreciate your time tonight. And you know, the climate of hate in this country is alarming, but Saturday's massacre takes it to a whole new level. Officials say the alleged gunman was inspired by what you just heard Pelosi talking about, the Great Replacement theory. So tell us what you know about this racist rhetoric and the push here in New York for a racial equity office.
No, Cheryl, thank you for taking the time to center on this issue. It's so critically important. And I think that what happened this past weekend in Buffalo helps us to appreciate that this is not just a one-off incident and that we cannot let disinformation and racist rhetoric just go unchecked. This perpetrator of this crime centered specifically on replacement theory, this theory that Blacks and immigrants, are here to essentially take over and disempower white Americans. It's a theory that is now being espoused by certain people in the media, and it's being essentially perpetuated and propped up by certain people in elected positions. This cannot stand. And one of the ways that we can tackle this is, by centering on how do we get at the roots of what this is all about, this racial inequity and what has propped it up and essentially allowed it to persist in our society for so long. So here in New York City, we're beginning with racial equity, centering on racial justice. And that begins with truth and reconciliation. It's not just, pointing fingers, but really bringing everybody to take a look, come together and take a look at how we got here in the first place and appreciating that we're now all part of this racist system by design. And only until we begin to appreciate and acknowledge that we're part of this problem and we've got to collectively work to address it, can we get to a better place? Right. And that's what a racial equity office would do. Okay.
And, you're the chair of the New York City Racial Justice Commission, as I said. So what can be done about the explosion of racial and racist rhetoric online that's inspiring young people to commit these heinous acts?
Well, the United States Constitution allows for freedom of speech, but there are restrictions on it. And when there is a compelling reason, because, the actions, the words may incite violence, then it can be clamped down on. And that's what we need to be doing with social media and other outlets. And frankly, with media outlets, even traditional ones that espouse hate and hate rhetoric. More needs to be done there. And again, going back to racial justice, if we had in government functioning this responsibility of looking at how hate rhetoric, how racist statements perpetuate violence, bring about violence, then we could begin to undo this evil that is just growing and growing and growing.
Yep. And it is growing and it is evil. Jennifer Jones Austin of the New York City Racial Justice Commission, appreciate your time tonight.